Hey everyone, welcome to scuba class. It's good to see those of you who are here. We have a small group tonight, it looks like so far. Some of you were just with me scuba diving, and kudos to you for being here on time because we literally were just in the water, like my hair is still wet. So we just scuba dived at Big Blue Spring on the Wasissa River. And then yesterday, wow, long day. We were in Panama City scuba diving as well. So, so yeah, lots of activities going on. Do we have any new people here? Not yet. Okay. Do we have any talkative people here? Darby, are you sunburnt from being in the in the pool session for so long?
I think I'm okay.
Good.
I have a minor. I look very pink right now. It's just because I don't have good lighting here,
I
but
know.
I'm okay.
Good, good,
I'm
good.
doing good. And I had a lot of food today because I was just
I mean,
super hungry
famished,
from the
right? So we had
weekend.
a pool session on Saturday all day. And then some of you went diving with me yesterday in Panama City. And then we had today at Big Blue Spring. We do have a couple new people, don't we? Ashley and Greg, are you new?
No, we're not new.
Oh, you're not new. Okay, who's new here? I feel like someone's new. Nick, you were here before. I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, my brain is tired. Tired. So I'm glad you're here. If you're new, welcome. We do have people who are going to catch up on the recordings as well. Tonight is going to be a lot. I'm just going to tell you, we're Chris and I and Josh, when he gets here, we're going to do everything possible to simplify some complex concepts. Okay? So these are the concepts that are probably the most challenging for most divers, including dive tables. And then we have sac rate as well. And so you'll notice in your dive logs, you have sac rate. This is honestly a skill that normally is not taught until people get into tech diving. So believe me, when your cave diving friends will know what sac rate is, but not a lot of people even know what it is. And so you will impress people. So, all right. Anyone have anything to share before I get started? Anyone have questions? Okay. Wow, it's a quiet
I have a
group tonight.
question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, do when so Jake and I will not be here for the dive on the 19th, but when will you be scheduling the next dives after July 19th?
We're diving all the time. Are you in a hurry to get
Okay.
certified by a certain date?
No, no. We'll be back, I think from we're going to Virginia. We'll be back on the 21st or 22nd, and we just like to sign up for whatever the dives are after
Sure.
that.
If you go to the tiny URL that I sent you, the link that I sent you to my calendar, you can see as I add different diving. So,
Okay.
for example, I just added today, I just added scuba diving, and it's tentatively Royal Springs on Friday. Anyway, I add stuff all the time.
Okay, great.
And even if you tell me like, hey, I really want to dive on this weekend, can we go diving? I'll do my best to accommodate you. If you told me like I
Okay.
have to be certified by such and such date, we'll get a
Yeah.
lot of diving in. And that's the case right now. It's been intense. It's been like almost every day. So we have a lot of
Awesome.
people, who are getting ready for trips and need to get certified. So but that's a great
Oh,
question. So just reach out when
okay.
you're back and let me know and we'll go from there. I think someone just texted me
Awesome.
as the class started too. Um, so let's see here. All right. So it's not somebody who's here, it seems like, right? Okay.
Hey, Gabrielle, one question. I think you answered this when we were diving earlier, but you wanted us to sit in today, even if we haven't gotten the second lectures.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, because we're going to teach you some things that are really going to help you. You just went diving today, Tim, right?
Right.
And I said, okay, I kind of went over dive tables with you, but we're really going to get into it today. And you're going to understand it all. I promise. So Chris, me, and Josh, our goals tonight are to simplify. complex concepts. You hear my dog whining in the background. Um, so to make really complex concepts as easy to understand as possible. It will challenge your brain, but at the end you'll have a lot more clarity. And then when you go diving, all of this will be a lot easier. Okay. So some of you signed up and, literally jumped right into pool sessions, diving and haven't had a chance to catch up on lectures. Don't worry about it. Tonight, we're not really building on prior concepts. We're starting some new ones. I did briefly share dive tables last time, but it's all new. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let me begin then. If you do think of anything, jump in. When I'm teaching, I'm not able to see the chat box. So if anyone could monitor the chat box for me or just speak up, that would be great. So welcome to SCUBA class, and our teaching team is the same as last week. Thank you to the teaching team. Anna Marie was there on Saturday for the pool session, and that was incredibly helpful. She's awesome. And so we are, I forgot to add all the completeds. We are, moving right along. We actually shifted the time from a morning to an afternoon dive, which is why we just got done. Now I've just added Friday, July 4th for anyone who's already had a pool session and wants to join, but otherwise we're good. We have pool sessions on Sunday the 6th and Saturday the 12th. For any of you who are in the 6th session, I'll just tell you right now, the 12th has less people in it. If you possibly want to shift one or two people into the 12th and from the 6th, it'll make it easier to have smaller groups. So we have exam review on the 14th. So if everyone could possibly catch up by then, great. If not, no worries. Okay, we're flexible. That's what we are here. We're all about flexibility. So currently we have the 17th and 18th for Springs dives, tentative locations. I'll tell you what, we were in the Gulf yesterday. It was 82 degrees. It was beautiful. The visibility on our first dive site was like 80 feet on the hovercraft, which is an awesome shipwreck. It was so nice. Today, we were in a spring and it was 69, was it 68 or 69? It was cold. It was cold. We were all cold by the end of it. So springs are beautiful. I like them. They're easy to access. They're always inexpensive. But boy, the ocean sure is lovely. So just think about that. So if you want to do any Gulf diving, let me know. And again, if you have your own boat, we can go off of your boat. So we're going to go over dive planning and safety and dive tables, including decompression theory. So for dive planning, there are some obvious things you need to know, like, how are you feeling? We had two divers have to cancel yesterday because they had COVID, just as an example. Don't go diving with COVID, okay? Climate. Well, today was a little interesting with climate. We were dodging thunderstorms, but we actually didn't get any rain. So travel, weather, and then are you rested, nourished, qualified, apprehensive? And then you want to know the who, what, when, where, why, how, and you want to prepare for the dives, including equipment and buddy. Now, anytime you're with me, I will provide you with buddies. Don't worry if you don't have a buddy. You will have a buddy as long as you're diving with me. You'll also have scuba gear. I just need you to always tell me like, hey, I need a wetsuit or I need whatever. And then on site, you're going to check the weather conditions and plan your dives. So here are some definitions and rules that everyone should know. And some of this we may have gone over last time, but this is really important this time. If you want to follow along and you have the materials, it's page 15 of your classroom notes. So when we're diving, bottom time starts the moment we descend and it stops at the safety stop. We do a safety stop at 15 feet for 3 minutes. Required decompression diving is too deep and too long. So we don't do decompression diving. We do no required stops diving. That doesn't mean not a safety stop. It means we're not doing a decompression stop. Our limits, and I know we looked at the dive tables last time and figured this out, but 50 feet for 80 minutes, 80 for 32, and 100 for 18. Does everyone have a dive table in electronic version or print version? Does anyone not have it? Okay, great. Whenever we're diving, we always round up. So you round up to the next greater time or the next greater depth. Leo says hello. This is a foster kitten who's available for adoption. Your ascent rate should be really slow. It should be no faster than 30 feet per minute. So how fast is 30 feet per minute? If you're going up a line, it's hand over hand. It's really slow. If in doubt, you're with me diving or any of the other leaders, don't go faster than us. We're going to show you how slow you need to go. So for high altitude diving, which we don't have a lot of here, but if you're going on a trip somewhere, you're gonna reduce your times and depths. So you're gonna dive more conservatively for high altitude diving. For flying after diving, you're gonna wait 12 to 24 hours. This is one of the nitrox advantages. So for those of you who love to travel like me, you can hop off a plane and immediately go diving. Look, his chin is turning, disappearing. He's a little tuxedo guy. Anyway, and then for after diving, you need to wait. So if you've done some, let's say repetitive diving or deeper diving, then you want to wait 24 hours. If you've just done some shallow reefs, maybe you don't need to wait quite as long. Always err on the side of conservative. So when I go on a trip, on the last day, I like to plan land activities. Okay. If you are nitrox certified, this is going to be less risk for you. So your residual nitrogen time, RNT, or depth time is the time against the next dive. You're going to need to know this on your dive tables. And then your total dive time or your total bottom time. I keep taking him off my lap and he just jumps back. Sorry. So it's the residual nitrogen time plus the actual bottom time of your next dive. And again, the safety stop should end all dives for 3 minutes at 15 feet. The only exception would be if you did a really shallow dive. So if you did a dive, let's just say you were scalloping and it was 22 feet of water, you wouldn't need to do a safety stop. So the general rule, if it's 1 atmosphere below the surface, so that's 33 feet in saltwater or 34 feet in freshwater, then you don't need to do a safety stop if you're only 1 atmosphere below the surface. And repetitive dives account for previous dives that day, so it's the prior, typically 12 hours. So let's go over your dive tables now. Your dive table looks like this, and there are 3 tables on them. The first table, which is right here, is single dive. This is if you're just doing 1 dive, it's super easy. We went over this a little bit last time, but I'm going to go over it again. The depths are here. It's in feet and meters, and then your max is here, and then there are a whole bunch of numbers beside them that indicate what your bottom time was. And again, you're going to round up here. Then you go down to table B, which is right below it, and you're going to see a letter coming off of table A. So that's your end repetitive dive group. Your repetitive dive group for the first dive, you always start as an A diver, which is the least nitrogen load. And then as you dive, you're gonna get higher in the letters. Okay. So diving safely and using the dive tables is all about managing our nitrogen load, about knowing how much nitrogen is in our bodies. So when you come down to table B, that's a surface credit. So as an example, for those who were diving on the boat yesterday, most dive boats have a 1-hour surface interval. So anytime you have a 1-hour surface interval, you're going to drop 1 letter. Okay. And then you're going to see a range on table B. By the way, the range right here is most to least. So if you see like a 10 to a 52, then that would be if your surface interval time was between 10 minutes and 52 minutes. So if it's between 10 and 52 minutes, you're always going to be the same letter as if you hadn't done a safety stop. So sorry, between less than 10. Oh, my brain is tired. Between less than 10 minutes is you're going to be the same letter. If it's between 10 and 52, you're going to be Guys, help me out. My brain is tired. Hang on. I can't even see a table right now. I'll
It's
come back
the
to it. Yeah.
and if you're
I'm going on
if you
memory and my brain is really tired. 10 to
right,
52
so
is,
yes, if you're doing less than an hour, if you're in
yeah, you're the
that
same
first
letter.
block range, then
Yeah.
you're going to be the same.
It
That you're
just
going to
came
be
to
the
me
same
as I
letter.
was speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so 53 and up, you're gonna drop a letter. Okay. Table C, which is over here. This is kind of unusual. You're going to see that the depths are at the top here, and then there are some numbers on the bottom. Now, if you ever forget what these numbers are, there are two numbers, a top number and a bottom number. The little cheat sheet is right below it, and the top number is your residual nitrogen time, and the bottom number is your actual bottom time. Okay? So that's for your next dive. So every time we dive, we are monitoring our time. So our bottom time again starts the moment we descend and it stops at the safety stop. Okay. So how long, if you look at your dive table, how long can you stay at 50 feet? Look at table A and you'll see it in two places. One is right next to the number and the other one is all the way across to right before where it turns black.
80 minutes.
80 minutes.
Very good. 80. And then how long can you stay at 80 feet?
32 minutes.
32.
Very good. And how long can you stay at 100 feet?
18 minutes.
18.
Very good. Excellent. So decompression theory, again, is all about managing your nitrogen load. So in the beginning of diving, you don't have a nitrogen load, and then as you start to dive on dive one, you're getting more nitrogen in your body. And then you come up for your surface interval, and if it's, like on the boat yesterday, you're offloading some of that nitrogen, and then you're going back down and you're getting more nitrogen. So you're managing all of that through this. Okay. So I'm going to talk about how to use dive tables next. So just to kind of give you a little more information about this table A is your single dive time and group letter. This is kind of summarizing what I already said. Single dive time and group letters. If you're only doing one dive, it's super easy. It's just right here and then you go down here. Table B is surface interval credit. And table C is residual nitrogen time and next dive time. And then table D, which you flip it over, I like to say is for dummies because we don't do this kind of diving. It's decompression diving. It's for dummies only because we don't plan to do decompression dives as recreational divers. So this is only if you've messed up, you've got to go to table D. And so the dive tables that you all have are all waterproof. You can put them in your BCD pocket if you want to. Okay, so let's go through our first problem together, our first actual problem together. So we have a dive and we're going to go to 60 feet for 40 minutes. So I want you to look at your dive tables and then follow along with me on the screen here. Okay, so we're going to follow it down to 60. And then we're going to follow it over to 40, but we don't see a 40, right? So we round up to what number?
45.
Good. And that makes us what letter?
H.
Good. And then we are going to stay out for 1 hour because we're on a dive boat. You see the 1 hour? Now what letter are we?
G.
Everyone see G? Good. Okay. For our second dive, we want to go to 50 feet. So now we're going to find where the G and the 50 intersect. Does everyone see that? And problem A is going to ask you, how long can you stay? Okay. So to find how long we can stay, we find where the G intersects with the depth that I gave you, 50. And then the answer is going to be the bottom number, bottom time. Okay. So the answer is
31.
great. And then if we were going to do a second dive, maybe a third dive, we'd actually need that top number, which we'll show you shortly. So when you chart it out on your dive tables, it kind of looks a little more like this. This is for your dive logs too. You'll also notice that of that 49 and 31, you're like, where'd the 39 come from? I mean, the 31 come from. So if you actually subtract them, 80 minus 49, remember the max on 50 was 80. So 50 feet for 80. So if you're wondering where the numbers came from, 49 minus 31, okay? I mean, 80 minus 49 is 31. Woo! So on paper, for a three dive problem, it's going to look something like this. So this is going to be your time and your depth, and then RNT is residual nitrogen time, ABT is actual bottom time, TBT is total bottom time. This is where you're adding them together. How much do you think your residual nitrogen time on your first dive will be?
0.
0.
Yes, very good, very good. And then
No nitrogen.
And then if you look at these circles here, this is for your repetitive dive group, okay? So what did I say you're always going to start out as?
A.
Yeah, so it would be an A right here, okay? Um, so that's kind of how it goes. Chris, I already forgot what one am I teaching? When do you start? 20?
I go up to I start 21 for the
21.
three dive
Perfect.
problem.
Thank you. Okay, so let's do another problem and let's see if you can figure it out. So our first dive is 71 feet for 20 minutes. We're going to have a 2-hour and 30-minute surface interval. And on our second dive, we want to go to 38 feet. How long can we stay? Now, what I want you to do is get your letters, your repetitive groups, and everything. Don't share your answer. Just type in the chat box when you're ready, when you have it. Or give me some kind of hand signal or sign because I'm not actually looking at the chat box. Does everyone have it? Does anyone not have it? Okay, Elijah, I'm going to have you, since you've done 2 days of diving with me, I'm going to have you go ahead and walk us through this. What's your starting letter? Unmute yourself.
Sorry. So for 71 feet, I rounded that to 70 feet.
No, no, no. You don't round down. You always
Oh,
round
so I
up.
round up. So I
Always
round
round
up
up.
to 80 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went over for 20 minutes. And then when you go down, that makes you an E diver. And then you look for 2.5, which makes you a C diver. And then where this and 80 intersects is 14 over 18. And then I
14
get
over
confused.
18.
Yeah,
So you were a sea diver,
yeah.
and the second dive was to 38 feet. So did you find what would 38, what do you need to round up to for table C?
38 needs to round to table C here. Am I looking at the top numbers?
So yeah, so 38, what do you round up to? Was there a 40 there?
There's a 39.
No, the top where it says
Oh,
depth,
40. Yeah, 40.
40. Okay,
So maybe
so
29 over 106.
there you go. That's it. Okay, so if you find where the C intersects with the second dive time, I mean second dive depth, then you're going to get the 29 over 106. So the answer is 106. Okay. So you always start as an A diver. then you were an e-diver, and then you stayed out for 2 hours and 30 minutes, so you offloaded some of that nitrogen and you were a sea diver. Now, what do you think would be your end group if you stayed for 106 minutes? Anyone have an idea on how to calculate that?
It's the top number, right?
Yes, you add the top number to your actual bottom time, which we're going to say is 106, right? And so 29 plus 106 is
135.
yes.
I can't do math.
Believe me, Darby, I'm like, my brain can't remember anything right now. So you did good. All right. And then, so now we're going to go back up to table A, same depth, 38, which we're rounding up to 40.
40.
And then we're going to follow it over to the 106. So 40 to 106 makes us what letter?
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Everyone see that? Good. That'll help you with the next problems that we have. Okay, let's go over another problem and see if you all can figure this out. 40 feet for 1 hour is our first dive. We only stay out for 50 minutes, 50 minutes. And then our second dive, we want to go to 80 feet. How long can we stay? Everyone work that out. Don't share the answer yet. Just let me know when you have it. And actually, if you could just unmute yourselves and tell me you have it, that'd be cool.
I've got it.
Great. If it seems like a number that wouldn't be good, then you have it. So don't question yourself if you're like, there's no way.
I got it.
Okay. Does anyone not have it?
Got it.
Good.
3.
Darby, you have it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Tell me your answers.
3.
3.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into this in a bit, but that would just kind of be a bummer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what choices do you have? Hey, stop barking. There's nobody at the front door. Stop barking. I'm sorry. Finn,
Longer service
hush.
time?
What's that?
You need longer service time?
Yes, you could do a longer surface time. Now, I'll tell you, if you
Ooh.
surface for 2 hours, you'd still only have 10 minutes. What's another good option?
Don't go to
Shallower dive.
Yes, exactly. Do a shallower dive. In fact, most of the time when we dive, we do our deepest dive first. We don't do our deepest dive second. We'll get into a dive table problem later that'll show you why. Okay? So everyone got A and G, right? For your letters?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Now let's mix things up a little bit and let's go to 3 dive problem. Okay, I'm going to walk you through this problem, but I want you to follow along with me. I'll read it first, and then I'm going to kind of walk you through and see if you can figure it out along with me. First dive is 60 for 20. We're going to be on the surface for 1 hour. Our second dive is 50 for 20. We have another surface interval time of 60 minutes. And then our third dive, we want to go to 40 feet. How long can we stay? Now, you might ask me, well, when am I ever going to do 3 dives in a day? Trust me, I do 3 dives, 5 dives even in a day sometimes. I love to go on liveaboards, which is like a cruise where all you do is eat, sleep, and dive. And it's awesome. And so, 3 dives is very doable. In fact, if you take the advanced class, you'll do 3 dives in a day. Okay, so now let's walk through it together. What letter did we start as?
A.
Good. All right, so we're going to go 60 for 20. And do we need to round up?
Yes.
Okay. What's the letter?
D.
Yeah, so we round up to 22, right?
Yeah.
And then we are a
D diver.
D diver. Okay. We're out for 1 hour. And now what letter are we?
C.
C.
Correct. We're a C diver. So anytime we're out for an hour, we always drop a whole letter. It helps a lot. So, but if you're 52 minutes, between 10 and 52, you're the same letter. But if you get to 53 and above, 53 is going to give you a whole letter drop, which is great. Okay, so now we're a C diver. And on the second dive, we want to go to 50 feet. Right now, we're not going to pay attention to the 20 minutes. We're just going to go find where the C and the 50 intersect. Okay? And what do you all see there for the top number and the bottom number?
23 over 57.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab our residual nitrogen time, which is the top number. So that number is
23.
23. And we're going to add that 23 to the actual bottom time of our second dive. This is important. A lot of people get stuck with this, okay? So the second dive, we're adding our residual nitrogen time, which is how much nitrogen we've accumulated from our first dive. We're adding that. That's like a penalty. We add the 23 to the actual bottom time of our second dive, okay? That gives us a new number, our total bottom time of 43. Making sense so far? Now, this is, again, where it gets most complicated is on this second dive because there's an extra step. We go back up to table A, same depth, new number. So now we're looking at 50 for 43. My foster kitten is pressing buttons. All right, so 50 for 43. Okay? So now I want you to go back up to table A and look at 50 for 43. Do we round up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the number?
48.
Okay, great. And then what letter are we?
G.
Yeah.
G?
Yes.
Okay. And now we're out for 1 hour. What letter are we?
F.
Good. We're an F diver. Our third dive, so we finally finished the second dive. You see how you have to keep all the steps in mind. Let me just reiterate for you. For the second dive, you're always going to take the residual nitrogen time, which is when you're coming off of table B and you're finding where the depth and the letter that you came out as intersect. You're taking that top number, which is residual nitrogen time, and you're adding it to the actual bottom time of the dive that you're planning. So in this case, it's 20. So now we have a new number. We took our residual nitrogen time plus our actual bottom time to get our total bottom time of 43. We're now going back up to table A and we're doing 50 for 43. Okay, so that's the second dive is 2 steps. Now we want to go on our third dive to 40 feet. So we're an F diver and we want to go to 40, and this works kind of the way a 2-dive problem is. So we're now going to find where the 40 intersects with the F, and we see 55 over 80, right? So how long can we stay? Which of those numbers is correct?
80 minutes.
80.
80.
Very good.
Okay.
Excellent. Everyone see how that works? Does that make sense?
And
Yes.
Okay. So
I think I'll stick with 2 times.
what's that?
Talk
he was,
into me.
Okay.
sorry, just talking to me.
Yeah, no worries. So again, on the problem, it's going to look like this. You were an A, then you were a D, then you were a C. We added our residual nitrogen time to our actual bottom time. We got a new number, right? Our second dive, and then we went back up to table A, 50 for 43. Then we were a G diver, and we sat out for 1 hour. We are an F diver, and our final answer was 80. Okay. That makes sense? All right. Awesome. Well, if you can remember those steps, then I'll tell you that Chris is going to take over with some more dive table problems, and you're going to nail it if you can just remember that second dive and all the extra steps, okay?
All right, we're going to keep on this trend of planning our 3 dive plans. So here we have another problem. So what I'm going to do is I have the numbers written down on this side. I'm going to jump over to a dive table so that we can all see what's going on. So basically, we are going to plan 3 dives right now. So our first dive is going to be to 100 feet for 10 minutes, always trying to do that deeper dive first. We're going to come back to the surface for a really quick break for 30 minutes, a second dive down to 50 feet. Then we're going to take a little bit more time on the surface to get everything together for 1 hour until we go for a third dive down to 40 feet. We need to know how long we can stay. So with doing that, we will go ahead and I will share this here. All right. So, all right. So our first dive, we want to go down to 100 feet. So let me get the annotation over here, which for some reason decided it wanted to hide on me.
Do you want me to scribe for you?
I can do it. I just don't know where my
If you hover over the table, you should see a little green
bingo.
little
Got it.
icon, and if you hover over that green, it'll say annotate, and then you click it.
Yep, got it. I apologize, everybody. I thought I had it all set up,
Listen,
but
we're
it's
not perfect. Look at
technology.
me. I mean, I've been diving my whole life, and I'm like 10 to 52. I don't know. So
All right. So our first dive is to 100 feet. Okay. So what we want to do, again, we always want to find that number or round up if it's in between numbers. So we're at our 100 feet and we want to dive for,
you're gonna actually have them solve this one, right?
yes. Yes.
So
yes,
don't annotate just yet.
yeah.
This is something they need to, so this is their turn to
Okay.
figure it out. Sorry.
All right. So we're going to
So-
start off. So we'll go down to our 100 feet for 10 minutes. And then we'll find our surface interval. So we'll give everybody a couple minutes to go ahead and work through this.
So Chris,
And
if you put the slide up for this one, I think it'll be, so normally what we do is have them solve this one just to make sure that everyone understands it, and then you'll walk through it.
Sure.
It just works a little better after I've just gone through one with them,
Yeah,
and they have a
absolutely.
chance to try it on their own. Thank you.
D, I just don't.
So then I normally read it for them just so they know.
All right. So again, we're at 100 feet for 10 minutes, a surface interval of 30 minutes, a second dive from down to 50 feet for 30 minutes, followed by a surface interval of 1 hour, followed by a third dive to 40 feet. So what we're looking for here is what are each of our repetitive groups after our dives and surface intervals. And then finally at the end, what is the maximum amount of time we'll be able to stay at 40 feet? And what is that residual nitrogen time that goes with that?
So everyone solve this on your own, and then when you're done, type in the chat box done. Don't type your answer.
All right, awesome. Starting to get some people closing it up. Excellent.
Amazing. This is a fast, smart group.
All right, we're getting there.
Those of you who haven't finished yet, are you stuck?
Yeah, I'm stuck.
Okay, who's I'm? I didn't see you.
Tim.
Okay,
All
Tim.
right.
Ashley and Greg, are you done?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Excellent.
Is anyone else stuck? All right. Now go for it, Chris.
All right. Okay, we'll get everyone taken care of here. Share. We're gonna pull this up.
What I like to do is now ask the people who finished what answers they got. So,
Yes.
what'd you guys get?
61.
Yeah, I got 61 as well.
Hey,
Nice. Excellent.
I
All right.
mean,
That's
impressive.
looking good.
Impressive,
Oh,
impressive.
all
Anyone get
right.
something other than 61? Okay.
No? Okay. Awesome. All right. We don't need to walk through it. No.
Yeah, we do.
We'll-
We
No, we'll go
we
ahead and
have
walk
at
through.
least
All
one
right.
person and
Yeah.
probably others who would love you to walk through it.
All right. So the first step here, we're going to focus on dive one. So dive one was 100 feet for 10 minutes. So we're going to find 100 over on our depth. We're focusing on feet, not meters. So we have 100 feet. And then we are going to go over, and we know that we want to dive for 10 minutes. So we're going to find the next highest. So that's 12. So we're not going to go for the 9. We want to build in that conservative diving. So we go to 12, which brings us to our first repetitive dive group, which is D. Okay, so that's the first one. We end dive number 1 as a D diver. From there, we find our surface interval. So again, that's a range. So the range that falls between here is 10 minutes and 52 minutes. And that keeps us as a D diver. And then we're going to go, and we know that we want to do our second dive down to 50 feet. Okay. So is everybody following up to this point? Okay. So we're a D diver after our surface interval, after the first dive. So we're looking for the intersection of row D and then the depth of our second dive. So we find our depth of 50 feet for our second dive, and then we want to find the intersection of that 50 and row D. Okay, so when we come up with that, we find we have 29 and 51. So that's going to give us our maximum depth that we can dive at 50 feet, which would be that 51 minutes. But we know that we want to plan for a third dive. So what we need to do is we need to include that residual nitrogen time to account for that nitrogen that we're on gassing during that dive. So what we're going to take away from this is that 29. So now we're going to start looking at, so we have our 29, and we know that for our second dive, it was for 30 minutes. So that is going to equal our 59 is going to come out to be 59 minutes. All right. So now that we've maxed out to table C here, what we're doing is we're looking for 59 minutes for our dive time. So we're going to plan our second dive. So now we'll go down to 50 feet. So I know this is the complicated transition. So have I lost anybody here? And we can go over this one more time. Okay, awesome. So we found our 50 feet dive. So we did our surface interval, we accounted for it. We found out that to account for the nitrogen that we still have in our system after the surface interval, that counts for 29 minutes. So we're going to add that 29 minutes to our 30-minute dive that we are going to do at 50 feet. That comes out to be 59 minutes. So we find our 50 and we want to go for our 50 feet. And now we're going to ground up to the next time. So that's 63 because there is no 59. And then from there, we're going to follow down just like we did before. And after that second dive, we are going to be an I diver. And now here we want an hour surface interval after that second dive. So we want to follow this column all the way down to where our time block is going to give us an hour. So that's 53 minutes to an hour 44. That's going to make us an H diver. Now for our third dive, we want to go down to 40 feet. So we're going to find the 40 up top. And we want the intersection of where row H and the 40 intersect. So that gives us, and of course I erase that. We're just going to use a little bit of eraser here. Okay. So we're going to come down to that intersection, and that's going to give us a residual nitrogen time of 74, but we want to know our bottom time. So bottom number for bottom time, which gives us our 61. So that gives us at the very end that 61 minutes is the maximum amount of time that we can stay at 40 minutes for that third dive. So exceptional everyone that got there for 61. Is anyone that was having issues following, or is there something that we can go over one more time? All right. We're gonna move on to a little bit different planning here at the end. So this is the last 3 dive problem that we're doing for the moment. So if anyone has any questions, that's okay. This is really complicated. This is some of the more complicated math that we're going to be doing tonight. So if anyone has a question, go ahead and send it out there. Perfect. All right.
Tim, you understand now?
It did. It made sense.
Fabulous. Chris is a great instructor.
I learned from the best.
Mhm.
So we are going to, of course.
Well, this is the hardest part of the dive table problem, so you guys are doing great. We have a few more problems to work through, and then we're going to get into some fun stuff.
Yes. All right. So this is the problem we just went through. So D diver, we did our residual nitrogen time plus our bottom time. That gives us our planning time to include that nitrogen for our second dive, which gives us our I diver. We drop a group with a 1 hour surface interval, and then that gives us our 61 minutes max time. So now we're going back down. This is only 2 dives, but we brought up this point a little bit earlier, and we asked, why do we always do the deeper dive first? So let's do the plan. Let's see how it works out in real life. So for this problem, what I want you to do is plan your first dive to 80 feet for 20 minutes, a 15-minute surface interval, and then a second dive to 40 feet. How long can we stay at 40 feet? So again, the information we're looking at is what is our repetitive dive group after each dive, after our surface interval, and then finally, what is the maximum amount of time that we can stay on our second dive? Once you got it, go ahead and throw that up in the chat box. Awesome. All right. Already got some people. Bingo. Man, crushing it. Okay. Excellent. All right. So what are we getting for our maximum time at 40 feet? What do we think?
90 minutes.
90.
I do believe you are correct on that one. So it puts us down to 90 minutes at 40 feet. So that's not too bad. 20-minute dive down at 80 feet. Nice little 15-minute surface interval, just enough time to change over cylinders, and we're right back in the water, heading down to 40 feet, and we get to stay there for an hour and a half. That's it's pretty awesome. Nice time underwater. Probably going to be a little bit chilled either way. So now let's go ahead and see what happens when we just do a 45-minute dive at 40 feet, and let's see how long we can stay down at 80 feet. So let's go ahead and reset. Take a second, look at your dive tables, and let's look at a 40-foot dive for 45 minutes, another 15-minute surface interval, and let's see how long we can stay at 80 feet. Bingo, flying in. All right. All right. So what do we think here? For those of you who got it in, what do we have?
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, you are correct. Yes, 7 minutes. That's a little rough there. We could spend 45 minutes, 40 feet, and then only 7 minutes. That's really not even enough time to get down and get back on the ascent. So, all right. So, any ideas why? Can anyone just take a shot in the dark about why such a discrepancy? No? All right. So really what happens, and we kind of showed it a little bit. You kind of saw a little bar chart going up earlier on the dive profile. As our body takes on gases nitrogen, especially going to a deeper depth where you're breathing a much denser gas mix of that air. So, as you go down, your different atmospheres are increasing. So to 33 feet, to 66.3, 4 atmospheres at 99 feet. That's 2, 3, 4 times the amount of nitrogen that your body's taking in. And it takes time for your body to off-gas that nitrogen. So when we do our deeper dive first, we're on-gassing that nitrogen. We're going from 0 to that level, and then we're off-gassing that nitrogen during the dive, during our surface interval, and then we're starting to on-gas again during the second dive. When we take on a large nitrogen load during a shallow dive, then we only have a short period of time to off-gas, and now we're taking on an even greater nitrogen load because of that density. It really limits our bottom time. So that's a little bit of the physics behind it. All right. So great job up to this point. Everyone's doing awesome. So just keep those brains engaged. I swear we're getting really close to being done with that map. So now some practical applications here. So what is you go to a dive site. We don't usually look for dives, so we go to a dive site. We think about how deep is it? What's the cool thing that we get to see? How long do I get a chance to play down there? So we'll go over saccharate a little bit more. But the question I'm always looking for is, I know how deep it is. I generally know about roughly based on that depth how much time, but how long do I have to sit on the surface to be able to replicate that dive? So now I'll walk you through this one, and then I will hand it off to you guys to go ahead and work through 2 on your own. But what we're going to do here is, knowing our depth and time that we're looking to do for our dive, how long do we have to stay on the surface? Okay. So for this one, we want to go down to 80 feet for 30 minutes. And on the second dive, we're going to go down again to 80 feet, but we want to hang out for 20 minutes. All right. So we got 80 for 30 and 80 for 20. So I can see the wheels turning for some of you there, which is great. Please, by all means, feel free to go ahead and work on that in the background. And I'm going to pop up the dive tables, and we'll just walk through this one really quick. And then we will go ahead and just give it to you to run through the next one by yourselves. All right. So what we have here, so we have, where is it? 80 feet for 30 minutes is what our first dive is. So we go ahead and just like we're doing anything else, we'll go ahead and find 80 feet. Just like we would, we're going to go over for 30. We're really maxing this out. We really want to see. So that brings us over, and we are an H diver. All right. So now what we can use is table C here. We know that we want to have 80 feet for a maximum of 20 minutes. So we're going to find our 80 feet also here. And then we're going to go down and we're going to find the spot that's going to give us our 20 minutes of bottom time. Always remembering what our little key down here, our legend, the bottom number is our bottom time. So again, we want to stay for 20 minutes. That doesn't mean 18 minutes. We really want to stay for that 20 minutes on that second dive. So we're going to pick the one with the 22. Now we're going to follow this over. It gives us row B. Now if we find the intersection between B and H, that's going to tell us that we are going to want a surface interval somewhere between 5 hours and 17 minutes and 6 hours and 32 minutes. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? So again, we're planning 2 dives for this one. Okay, so again, we know that we want to do our first dive 80 feet for 30 minutes. Now our second dive, remember, this is our maximum bottom time is the bottom number. So again, we find our depth on our top row of table C. We find where our maximum bottom time is. Remember, top is residual nitrogen time. We're looking at the bottom number. So we want 20 minutes. So we're going to get that 22 at B, intersection of B and H, and that's going to give us that. So any questions? Okay, awesome. All right, well, I'm going to throw this right back over into all of your very capable hands, and we're going to give all of you a shot to work it out. And okay, let's check my numbers here to make sure. Did I do it right? Yep. B, 5 hours and 17 minutes or longer. So, yep, it's a little bit to sit on the surface, but hey, it's worth it if there's something really cool down there at 80 feet. You want to head down there twice, especially staying for that long. All right, so for this dive, I want everybody to go ahead and work this out. We're looking at what is going to be our surface interval. So our first dive is 70 feet for 35 minutes. And we want our second dive, we want to be able to go down 50 feet for 50 minutes. So let's go ahead and figure out what is going to be the range of our surface interval. Oh, man, people already knocking it out. Look at this. Man, you guys are making it too easy tonight. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. No, but seriously, if there's any questions on this, we want everybody to know this. This is how we safely dive. So if there's any questions at all, there is no silly question with any of this because it's what keeps us all safe and having fun diving.
For the 50 minutes, do we round up or down?
For the 50, yes. Anytime we're doing this, we're always rounding up.
Remember, if we round down, that's less conservative. We always err on the side of being very conservative, right? Conservative is safe when you're diving.
Conservative is always good.
Not always. Let's not get into politics.
All right. So looks like we pretty much got everybody there. So what we're going to do, so if we're going 70 feet for 35, 50 for 50, what are we going to do? So our first dive, 70 feet for 35 minutes. We are an H diver. That means that we'll need a surface interval at 3 hours and 30 minutes or longer. Everybody get that? Did anybody get anything different? All right, so this is more reasonable here. 3 hours and 30 minutes. That's enough time to get a nice snack. So that'd make me happy. Enough time to get some chow in you and get ready for the next dive. All right, one more. Again, this has some really significant practical applications for everybody. So last one of this type, and actually I think this is we'll go through one more, looks like 2 more problems after this. So one more of finding the surface interval. So we got 70 feet for 32 minutes and 50 feet for 30 minutes. How long do we need to stay on the surface? All over it, folks. Well done. All right. So if we're going down to 70 feet for 32 minutes, that's going to make us a G diver. And then to come out at that 50 minutes or 50 feet at 30 minutes, we need to be at least a G diver. So we don't have much of a surface interval that we have to manage there at all. So this is staying well within the ranges there. Again, 10 minutes is a really quick surface interval, but hey, as you can see, dive planning is a really important part of how we can manage our dives and really manage our bottom time and how we can control what we can see and how much time we have. So well done, everybody. Very, very good job. You guys are doing absolutely exceptional tonight. So now, last one. So let's see here. So this is an easy one. So who can tell me if we go down to 60 feet for 70 minutes? What are we looking at for if we're gonna be looking at going into a second dive? Where does that put us for surface interval time?
Into decompression sickness.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you'll notice is that when we look at 60 feet and we try and track that over, we kind of run out of numbers. We run into some black boxes. In fact, we don't have to follow the rollover. I follow the rollover because I'm stubborn and simple. So, but I would go, oh my gosh, there's nothing there. Well, if I looked at the first number, I'd see maximum there is 51 minutes is the max we can stay. So that means that we are maxing out at 51, which means now we need to start looking at the back of our table. So now if we look at the back of our table, I do not have the back side here. So if you flip your dive tables over and we look at that, what we're going to do and how do we find this number here? We look for the depth, and then we are going to go over to so we're at 60 feet. So we find the 60, and then we're going to find the amount of time that we actually stayed. So if we're looking for 70 minutes, we find the 70, and that tells us that we need to spend 14 minutes at 20 feet. Okay. Actually, hold on. There we go. Sorry, everyone. I just didn't have this tracked over. I will share this for everyone. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Everybody can see. So we were diving at 60 feet, but unfortunately, here's our bottom time. We went and our bottom time went to 70 minutes versus what we were supposed to do. and we follow that over to our time at 20 feet, which means that we are going to have to spend 14 minutes off-gassing and decompressing at 20 feet. Now, again, as Gabrielle mentioned, these tables are waterproof and can go into a pocket of a BCD. This is one of those situations that if you find yourself that you have exceeded your plan, that this is the table that we use. We do not use table D to plan a longer dive. That is not how we do it. Table D is something to reference in the case that we have spent too long at depth. All right. So I just want to make that abundantly clear that we are not using this for some type of advanced planning in that manner. Okay. So any questions about how we just use table D?
And if you go to the next slide, it'll actually show
Yeah.
you the build
Yeah,
for that problem.
Yeah, there we go.
I have a question.
Yes.
For that table D, how come, so I see time to first stop and then how many minutes at 20 feet and then the total ascent time. Why don't they equal? I think there's like, it doesn't completely equal the total ascent time. So what's the rest of what's missing, or what are you doing in that time?
So what they're talking about, your total ascent time is going to be going over your ascent from 60 feet all the way through your time up to your safety stop.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, what we're saying is for this one in particular, and what we want to walk through everyone is just staying focused on, in the case that you have exceeded your planned bottom time, that in order to reference what your decompression stop will be, is that we're assuming for this whole problem here is we're saying that from 70 feet, it's going to take you 1:20 seconds to ascend to 20 feet. No, I'm sorry. Take that back. So this is your total ascent time here. And then once we get to 20 feet, we're going to be staying at 14 minutes. Again, we're not going to go into the math on this one. So the only thing that we're going to be asking anyone to do on this one is looking at the problem and saying, okay, I have spent too much time at this depth. Now, what is my decompression time that I'm going to have to focus on at 20 feet? So there is much additional training when it comes to decompression timing and advanced diving. We're not going to that here. So the only thing we want to cover with everyone, we want to keep it really simple, is just saying, this is how we check to see. We want everybody to know your decompression stop is at 20 feet, and then you're going to ascend from that 20 feet to your 15 feet for your safety stop. So that's all we want everybody to focus on. We won't be going any further in depth than that.
Okay.
So, all right. All right. Any additional questions? And we'll move on to, we'll go on to a couple practical questions here on decompression, then we'll move on.
Just curious if you have an answer. How come this stop is at 20 feet, but your normal safety stop is 15?
Yep. So 20 feet is going to just give us that a little bit more offset from the surface. It's going to keep us at a range where our body can more effectively, we're keeping those bubbles smaller, but yet we are shallow enough that we are off gassing more rapidly. So it's going to be faster than being at 33. We're not a full atmosphere underneath the water, but at 15 feet, if you're looking at 5 feet in either direction, if you're on a line, we just want to keep you a little bit below that safety stop because we're expecting you to ascend up to a safety stop after you complete that decompression.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So, all right. So we conduct a dive for 80 feet, but instead of our planned time, where we wanted to stay down for 30 minutes, we end up staying down for 50 minutes. So for 80 feet at 50 minutes, what is going to be our requirement for decompression? So let's go ahead and look at our table D. And let me see if I can bring the tables up here for everybody. So we can do
They should have this table and be able to give you an answer.
okay.
I would hope. Everyone have the table?
Yep.
Okay. What's the answer?
24.
Everyone got that?
4 minutes.
Yep.
Anyone not got that? Okay, awesome.
All right. 24 minutes at 20 feet. All right. Last one. We
Do you know how to
Eight.
do this one, Chris? Did you practice the build? If not, let me tell you. Have you seen the slide
Yes.
before?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good, good.
Yes. All right. So, all right. So we want to plan a dive for 80 feet for 25 minutes. Okay. So if everyone would reference our tables, find our 80. Okay. But we end up seeing a whale shark, or you name the cool sea creature that's going to really drive you crazy. For me, it was having a remora decide it wanted to attach onto my leg when I wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden you find yourself all the way down at 110 feet for 25 minutes. So how do we figure this one out? So of course we have exceeded our dive limits here. So when we go to table D, what is going to be our decompression obligation?
14 minutes.
Bingo. Excellent. Well done. So yes. So again, the purpose of these tables is just for that. We have a great plan in mind, something happens, and this is there for us for a resource so that we understand what our decompression obligation will be if we exceed the no decompression limits of our dive. All right. And that one brings it down for me. And Gabrielle, I believe I hand this right back off to you.
I think you're handing it to Josh.
Oh,
So
Josh,
that's
right.
all right.
Sorry.
So, hey, let's all give Chris a big thank you. And I don't know if you remember from last time, but Chris is one of our military veterans, and so is Josh. And so I always like to say, let's thank them for their service then and now. And so Josh has a unique sense of humor, so just be prepared. And this is not the last you're seeing of Chris tonight. So Chris and I are mixing it up. So I'll be back. Chris will be back. But for now, Josh, you're up.
All right. So we will start. Here we go.
The GoPro?
Oh, well, so yeah, we're just looking at the GoPro stock, which has crashed precipitously, but it's starting to bounce back
Oh,
every time Gabrielle loses a camera,
oh, don't
you
even
know.
get me started. I wish it was just a GoPro.
All right, so let's go with the slides. Here we go. All right. So the main thing to remember, right?
Can
You've
you
got
pull
your
up the
dive
slide?
plan. You've templated out what you want to do and how you intend to get back on the boat and make everything happen. But it doesn't always work out that way. Um, and so the things that I'm going to go through tonight in this chapter, if you've got your workbooks, some of these questions are going to be in your workbook B, page 19. So these procedures that we're talking about is what to do when things don't work out right. And it'll tie into what the information you want to put into your logbook, not just how you dove, the equipment you're wearing, but how you felt after the dive. So, um, you know, what we want you to do generally, you're going to be briefed to get back on the boat with
Josh,
500
can you please
psi.
share the PowerPoint?
Is that not shared?
No, we're looking at the stocks still.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why is the share? Oh, stop share. There we go. Are you seeing the PowerPoint now?
Nope. Just now share the PowerPoint. So go back to the share button.
Sorry about that, everyone.
No worries. Nice to see Apple stock is still doing good though.
For sure.
Okay, now put it in presenter view and find the appropriate slide that you begin on.
How about now?
Yeah, but that's not your first slide, is it?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that, folks. Okay, here we are. Special procedures planning. That's what I was talking about. So now these questions, like I said, are going to be in your workbook B, page 19. These are the special procedures. So just keep that in mind. All right. So when we talk about special procedures, this is some of the information you're going to put into your dive log. You're planning out your dive. You've got your rest stops and everything planned, your intervals. But if after the dive the conditions were not great for you, you're feeling stressed or too tired from that exertion, use greater time on your surface intervals, or change up the amount of time that you're on the at depth. So the tables are what we pre-planned, but life happens. So if you ascend too fast, just add an extra 2 minutes to your safety stop. There's nothing wrong with that. Just communicate to the dive master with as they come past you, to let them know you're okay. You're just taking extra time. And if you forget to do your decompression stop, things happen. You're not feeling well. Your buddy's not feeling well. Well, we don't want you to do that. But if it happens, tell the captain, tell the dive master immediately. You're going to remain out. You're going to get, we'll get you the extra O2 to be treated to avoid any decompression sickness. Contingency plans. So these are the things that you have to think about and talk with your buddy every time, right? Just go over these. You'll pay attention when the first mate or the captain's giving the brief as to where to enter and where to exit. But you have to think, okay, well, what if I can't reach that exit and I need to come up? How am I going to communicate that to the folks on the boat? Do I have my surface marker buoy? All of these contingency plans. So you'll see the special procedures planning in your questions and your workbooks. But if everybody that has their workbooks at home, I want you to look at your Learning Scuba Diving book, page 94. Just put these down as notes. You don't have to look at them right now, but I just want you to remember pages 94 and 101. 13 ways to run out of air and how not to. And on page 101, we have 7 mistakes divers make and how to avoid them. These are things that, you go through the tables, and there's a lot of mental prep with that. So go back, use these books. They're there to help you, to give you the confidence that you're going to be able to plan your dive and dive your plan. Okay, so the great thing about technology is that everything you've learned doing these tables, you're all very, very good at it so far this evening, much better than I was when I first started out. But there's this concept of the square wave dive. So, even though you think you're going down to 40 feet for 20 minutes, what you do is you go down, and then Chris finds something and he motions to you, and you go up 10 feet, and then you're there for a little bit, and then you go back and you and your buddy conga line around the wreck. And so you don't exactly go in a linear square up and down dive. So that's what's called an unsaturated multi-level dive. Well, the great thing is that your computer, when you get one, will help to calculate these things for you. So, because these information systems are continually updating, and they'll give you the remaining air pressure in your cylinder, how much longer you can remain at depth, how deep you are, how long you've been there, all of these things, and your ascent rate. Now, these are the types of computers, the wrist versions, right? Standard and advanced, air integrated, and then the hoseless. We'll briefly cover each of these, but generally for just starting out or recreational, a wrist gauge is perfectly fine to get going. Um, all right, so for these standard computers, the great thing about them, you got your current depth, max depth, bottom time, ascent rate, and you can calculate in your pre-dive planning. So, and then also you'll see at the bottom, you can also have one that is planned for nitrox, which you'll get to practice that and go through a specialty course to give you that experience as well. For these advanced computers, they've got memory, they've got simulators, they've got the same features, sort of uh, that um, you know, by generation, it just gives you more information. You can download it, you can save it, you can track it, you can bookmark your dives. And again, you want to have your dive planned in your logbook, and then the computers will help you to maximize your bottom time. There's many styles, many brands, and like I said, they can do it for different gas mixes and nitrox. Now, the air integrated computers, as opposed to the wrist worn, same features, generally more accurate. And again, the key thing for you there is it's going to calculate your airtime remaining. Because it's more accurate than analog gauges when it's calculating that. So now the hoseless is not as popular. You don't see that as much anymore because essentially this is having um, two devices that you have to have batteries for and keep both charged and properly working. Again, not very popular anymore. It's a great idea in concept, with the wireless transmitters, radio wave transmitters. All right, so manual activation. Because there's so many different versions, we're only going to focus on the key functions. If you get a dive computer and you bring it on some of these initial dives, make sure that you've got the manual with you, and talk to one of the instructors to make sure that you're following it along properly. Very simple manual activation. You turn it on, it's going to run through its initial calculations. Now, the other way to do it is automatic activation. And the great thing about this is at about 5 feet, it's, underwater is when it's going to go into dive mode for you. And now, when we talk about dive mode display, right here, you can see you've got your remaining air time, your dive time, your PSI. Um, Without calling anybody out in the chat, I'll just leave it up to Nick since I can see him first. Nick, how much air are we supposed to have? How much PSI are we supposed to have when we get back on the boat?
500?
What's that?
Was it 500?
500. Excellent. And that's in your workbook, question 13, question 16, page 13. There you go. So make sure you're filling out these workbooks. You'll come back and look at them. You'll be teaching somebody else next time around. All right. So you got your current depth, remaining air time, dive time, maximum depth that you've hit, and your no decompression time. It's going to keep calculating it for you based on, again, we talked about the square wave dive. You're going up for a bit, you're coming down. So, this is going to calculate it for you on an ongoing basis. We still want you to do your safety stop. Okay, so in the dive mode here, you can see that you've gone from 30 feet down to 60 feet. So, of course, your air time has now decreased from 41 to 27 minutes. All right, same thing here. Again, you go deeper, your no decompression time changes. All right, so it'll continue to calculate this. And as you can see, the PSI in your tank has gone down as well. One more. The further you go, your no decompression time continues to shrink. Now, as a recreational diver, you shouldn't be going any lower than 100, but that's after you've completed advanced training. We're going to keep you at 60. All right, so on your gauge, you'll see here that you've gone from 100 feet to 60 feet in less than a minute. So it's going to, some of them will have this ascent rate bar graph to tell you to slow down. That's why when you're going up on the rope, we always tell you, hand over hand is a good slow ascent rate to make it safely back on the boat. Now, your computers, you want to um, check them annually for fresh batteries. You want to treat these items carefully. If you're at a resort, you want to take these items back with you to your hotel room, make sure they're nice and clean. And after you're done with your dive, if you're not using it for a while, you take the batteries out and store them properly. All right. Most importantly here is, you know, the difference between the computers and the dive tables is not just physical and mathematical, but it's also psychological. All right. With the tables, you can back off a few minutes. You want to, gain a conservative posture. The computers are going to constantly be calculating it. And, again, we're trying to increase your ability to maximize your dive time, your bottom time on each of your subsequent dives and still dive safely. Remember, when you're using electronic devices, divers tend to believe the readouts and follow them to the letter, and not always for the contingency that the computer, is tracking you for multi-level dives. Don't let the computer take you up to the very last minute, right? Like people are saying, "Oh, I had another minute or two left on my computer. I could have stayed." Right? Stick to your plan. Come back up, surface, with your buddy, and prepare for your next dive. All right, so you guys have covered all of the dive planning with the tables. That was really great work. We've talked earlier about the risk for decompression sickness and how you can reduce those. Again, pay special attention to the special procedures. You're going to be quizzed on those, and that's part of your tests. And I'll just recap those. If it's cold and strenuous, use greater time next time. If descent is too fast, add an extra 2 minute safety stop. You can just stay there longer. If you omit your decompression, right, remain out for 24 hours and breathe pure O2 at the surface. And for contingency planning, you always want to surface down the current so that, if there's a problem where you can't reach the exit. Dive safely, dive conservatively, and don't get decompression sickness. All right, so any questions before we go on to the next module?
Hey, Josh, the omitted decompression special procedure, is that, did you say if you don't do your safety stop or if you go over the non-decompression limit?
If you omit your decompression. But so if you don't do your safety stop and you and your buddy come back up, we're going to tell you to stay out for 24 hours, and the captain or the instructor is going to make sure that you're breathing pure O2 at the surface. Now, if you exceed your decompression stop, right, like that's why we're trying to put these redundancies in there for you. Because at that point, it could be, you should let the dive master know, because then there's going to be an evaluation for you if you have exceeded that and do need to go through decompression.
Okay. So like either kind of situation, go ahead and remain out for the 24 hours. And
yeah,
I mean, you should never do this, Nick. I mean, I'm just going to say, Josh, while you're adjusting your slide to make it zoom not out all the way, like it's really big right now, I can't see all of it. Am I the only one? Yeah. I can't see it. I can't see the whole slide. It's like super zoomed for me. How about everyone else?
I can see all of
I
it.
can see it.
Really? Okay, something must have happened on
Yeah,
my end.
it's fine.
That's weird. So I'm only seeing half of his slide right now. How
Yeah.
strange. I wonder what happened. Okay, really strange. Um, hmm. I didn't do anything on my end. How odd is that? Anyway, Nick, first off, for everybody, listen, we don't want you to even think about a dive computer until you know your tables. But also, you always want to know your tables because computers fail. And so, there's nothing worse than having a computer fail and you're like, I'm just gonna dive until I don't have any more air. That's just dumb. And so Josh is talking about like a double bad scenario where you blew everything. You were supposed to do a decompression stop, which is not for recreational diving. It's for when you mess up and you have to go to table D. And you still didn't do it. And I'll tell you, in some cases, it's because you don't have that much time. Like, okay, you have to stay down there for 24 minutes, for example, and you don't have enough air in your cylinder to do that. So those might be the things. I've seen people do really stupid things because they relied on their computers. So we really want you to know dive tables before you even think of that. And I'm going to try to figure out what happened with the screen here. This is bizarre.
Okay, so one last thing before we move on to module 7. Um, so just remember, computers are good, but they're not linked to the conditions occurring in your body at the time of the dive. So, like uh, Gabrielle was saying, belts and suspenders, dive to the tables, dive to your feeling, right? Like more conservative than what's on your dive plan. If you're not feeling well, communicate with your buddy, make your safety stops, and again, communicate all of that when you get back on the boat. All right, so um, you're part of the diving family now. Some of you have already been in the open water, right? So there's lots of great continuing education that you can do. These are just some of the topics that we're going to cover tonight as well. So I'll just jump right into it. All right, so we are down here. You're working on your open water diver, and when you move up in the courses, you can get the additional skills. You can better explore underwater world. The open water diver. If you've got your handbooks, you're going to look in your Learning to Scuba Dive book, page 153. Just write that down. It goes over all the different courses, but that'll talk to you about what's required to become an advanced diver at the next level, right? You're going to have to do some additional diving. You can see here your options, and it's a combination of either equipment or environments that you're learning to dive in. So um, we've got several specialties. We want you to just kind of take your path here. You'll be an open water diver. You can do some full face mask. Most go straight to nitrox. You're going to want to be able to use a compass. We haven't talked about that very much. And with each of these levels, you're just adding more skills and opportunities and additional dives to where you get to the master diver. And that is the highest recreational, non-professional level in scuba. And then over here, you will have the opportunity at the leadership levels to become a dive master, all the way up to the instructor trainer, who is responsible for training and monitoring the instructors, and then the course director, who supervises the instructor trainers and manages the course curriculum. And what we want you to think about here is look through the different opportunities to do these different opportunities. And we've got a very robust search and rescue and search and recovery started with Gabrielle's nonprofit. So those are things that we'd love for you to get involved with. So it's essentially special equipment or special environments. Those are kind of how you break down the two different opportunities. All right. So
Hey,
other advanced
hey, Josh,
diving. Yes.
quick question about that. Where does cave diving fall in that licensing
We
specialty?
don't do cave
Let me.
diving. Yeah, so I'll just tell you for tech diving, cave, yeah, Josh is going to cover them, but I'll tell you if you want to go ca the cave route, there's a lot. I think I said it last time too. There's a lot of experience you're going to need to get before you even think about it, and then we'd be glad to send you. We work with a lot of really, really good tech diving, cave diving instructors. But I don't recommend personally that you even think about it till you have at least 100 dives under your belt to be safe.
Okay, thank you.
But listen, we're teaching you a lot of things that cave divers know. When they see you as an open water diver and they see that you have an octo right here around your neck, the way cave divers do, they're going to see you doing frog kicks instead of flutter kicks. They're going to already think, oh, wow, he's coming in like super prepared for this. So,
Nice.
so yeah, we really enforce a lot of the things that are going to be important when you become a cave diver.
Okay.
So Chris, what I want you to do is get your workbook A and go to page 19, and up here where it says list three specialties, I want you to put cave diving. Okay? So workbook A, page 19. That's
So
where you're
Josh,
gonna
just so you know, I
list
know you
those.
keep referencing the workbooks, but
Yes.
I've been teaching this for a long time, and I'd say 95% of students never use their workbooks, and it's fine if you don't use them. It really is fine if you don't. I'm just saying.
For
Um,
sure.
so just know that if you're like, wait, I haven't been writing, it's fine if you don't. Okay. So
We'll forgive you.
all right, let's hurry up. We got a lot to cover.
Chris,
We have less
so
than an hour.
in addition to your question, right? So you guys will see opportunities on the springs that there'll be cavern diving. The difference between cavern and cave. Cavern is where there's still some natural sunlight available. Cave is a very specific level of certification. We'll also see shipwrecks. You're going to see some of these in the open water dives. And then you can go through the training to go into that overhead environment. All right. So the training that you're going to have, again, it kind of breaks down to two types, equipment and experience. We've got the search and rescue. You'll learn about surface marker buoys, all of those things. And then from an experience on the training, you're going to learn about hazards, better planning. All of those things are future opportunities you can get. Okay, so this is Chris doing some cave diving with his, multiple tanks here for extended um, range diving, as they say. And then the next picture
And
here is
just to reiterate, tank is slang for cylinder. So
correct. So these extra cylinders are going to go with them into the caves. You can see here we've got some commercial divers. Potentially, they could be doing anything from welding to salvage. There's lots of opportunities beyond just recreational diving. All right. Now, we want you to plan your dives and you're going to log what you're doing on your dives. We want you to plan, use the tables, record these items, and it's not just to make sure you know what you're doing on your dive and you have a plan, but this is going to be required at some resorts to show that you've got 5 dives so that you can go on the resort one. Not every resort has sort of the learn to scuba dive in a day thing. Um, the other point is it's going to be required for you to advance up within the scuba levels that are offered. It's helpful for you if you're injured while you're diving. That way, there's a record of what you did and for liability purposes. But it's also just good to have this to reference. You'll go back and look at dives that you did years ago. I believe, I think Mr. Reed said that he learned to dive decades ago, right? So you want to keep these logs. They're great for you to help record, the equipment that you wore, how you felt in the dive, remembering what equipment you brought with you so that you can record that and look at it the next time you go out and plan your next dive. All right, I think this is my last slide. Okay. All
thank you
right.
so much. You can stop sharing now. Thank you so much, Josh. Really appreciate it. Josh is great to dive with too. We want to get him back in the water so you can all experience his humor in person, his humor and his expertise in person. All right, so let's talk up. Yay, you're getting some applause there. Okay, Josh. Nah. All right. So local diving, there's a lot of opportunities. In the Gulf, we have everything from Panama City to Pensacola, Destin. I know people in this group, some of you have boats and you might go out of St. Mark's, Dog Island. Also, Taylor County is great. That's where Victor is based. And if you ever want to volunteer in the artificial reef monitoring program in Taylor County, I'm telling you, there's some good diving there. Venice, some people like to hunt for shark teeth and things like that. Spring diving, we did some spring diving today, which is actually also river diving, Wassissa River, Big Blue. Troy Spring, Manatee, Morrison, Ginny. Many of these are, especially the state parks, they're free entry, which is awesome. If we on Friday, I think we're looking at maybe Royal. Royal is a county park that's free, just as an example. And so there are a lot of free or very low cost opportunities for springs. River diving, I've had many people who get into hunting for artifacts. And so river diving is great for this. Lots of rivers around here, Wakulla, St. Mark's, and Wassissa, and more. Atlantic, I think we have several students from South Florida. South Florida diving is really good. One of our students I know is from Miami. Miami diving, in my opinion, is not so good. But the Palm Beach area is beautiful. Jupiter has big sea life. I think some of you are heading to the Keys. The Keys are known for their reefs and shipwrecks. Fort Lauderdale has pretty good diving. Other diving locally include places like Blue Grotto, which is not quite a spring, it's a grotto. Epcot Aquarium, believe it or not. We've done a lot of trips to the Epcot Aquarium. There are many other aquariums that we've got to dive in, including the Georgia Aquarium. So I'm going to zip through some dive destinations before we get into some more techie stuff. So I love coral reefs, and even in the Keys, it's really sad the way that the reefs are dying, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. But I still love seeing reefs. You're going to see all kinds of cool creatures. Anyone know what this guy is? Any of them? How about this one? No? Okay, so trumpet fish here and an angelfish there. All right, you guys know grouper. I'm sure you see a lot of grouper around here. We have so many beautiful artificial reefs and wrecks. In fact, if you go online, almost all the artificial reef monitoring programs they give their numbers. So if you have a boat, you can go dive them, and there's a lot of sea life on them. Little creatures. Anyone know what this is on the left here? Is anyone with me? Are you still awake? Any
Yeah,
guesses?
It's a
I'm awake.
polychaete worm.
It is a Christmas tree worm. They're really cool because when you get close to them, unless the ones that aren't, that are used to people around them. Yeah. All right. Here's a goby and anemone fish. Hermit crabs. We have a lot of these in the area. Really decorative ones, actually, I've seen off of Panama City. Night creatures. Who knows what this is? On the left side first. What was this?
Lobster.
Lobster?
Yeah, I know a lot of you are going lobstering soon, right? What about this one? What is this?
The cuttlefish.
No, it's actually a reef squid. Very close, though. We have a lot of reef squid here. In fact, if you want to do your advanced skills and go night diving, we often have reef squid with us when we night dive, and they're really cool to see. What's this?
An eel.
What kind of eel?
Mooring?
Yes, very good. Excellent. So dive travel is fun. I've been to 89 countries and I've scuba dived in most of them. I love traveling and diving. And personally, I love shipwrecks. So Elijah got to dive on two yesterday. One was a fully intact structure called the hovercraft. Elijah, share with everyone what you got to experience yesterday.
It was honestly I always wanted to explore the Titanic, and all my dreams just came true with this shipwreck. It was super cool. There was so much sea life down there, and different things growing on the ship, and it was just really cool to experience things that you only see above water, underwater, and it was really awesome.
Thank you, Elijah. Yeah, I love, love, love shipwrecks. Dive destinations. Anyone have big trips planned to destinations? Ah, if you want, Ashley and Greg, are you going somewhere?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. I like it. Not yet. If you need any recommendations, let me know. I also have a group on Facebook called Scuba Friends, and you can post there or just kind of lurk and find what other people have written about them. Now, refreshing your skills. You always want to make 10 or more dives a year. There's no excuse here. You already know this about me. Anytime you want to go diving, come diving. It's not going to cost you anything other than a cylinder fill. So if you come diving and we do one dive somewhere, it's $5, okay? Can't beat that. I'll provide all your gear for you. I'll provide your wetsuit, whatever you need. I'll help you. But make 10 dives or more a year and that'll help you. If not, you need to refresh. we have several people in this cohort and in previous classes. If you haven't been diving in, more than a couple of years and you got certified a long time ago, you need to recertify. Subscribe and read. There's a lot of free things that you can read that are fun. Join a scuba club, Scuba Friends. It's free. And just go diving. There are career opportunities as well. Josh talked about some of these, but in the recreational industry, you could work in a dive shop, you could work at a resort, you could teach, you could get into scientific research. I'm pretty sure we have a couple of scientific researchers in here. If you wanted to work with underwater operations, Josh mentioned salvage as an opportunity. You can do salvage and repairs. These are very high paying fields, by the way, especially underwater operations, very high paying, but also very dangerous. There's public safety diving. I've had many of my students go on into the military after this and become military divers. And then often with military diving, it's mission oriented and you might do salvage, ordnance disposal, and combat missions. So Josh already talked about leadership opportunities. So I'm going to kind of zip through this and just know that if you ever do want to take things to the next level, we have lots of opportunities for you. So Scuba Educators International is your certification. It used to be YMCA. And my name is Gabrielle, and it's scubawithgabrielle.com. Scuba Friends is on Facebook, Scuba Friend. I have a YouTube channel as well you can watch. And again, I'm going to zip through these because you are all just starting out and there's no sense in me spending a lot of time, but Divemaster is what Josh is working on right now. And you don't always, we have many people actually who earn their Divemaster not to work in the field, but just to improve their skills. Assistant instructor is the next step after that. Excuse me, scuba instructor, that's what Chris and Anna Marie is. I am too. So let's move into, now that we've done some fun stuff, SAC rates. All right. We went over this a little bit before, but we're going to get into more detail. So get your brains ready. SAC rate stands for surface air consumption. You will notice in your dive logs that they're there. Now, Josh mentioned your dive logs before. I'm going to tell you that the dive logs have recently been revised, and I'm not a big fan of them. So I'm asking them to revise them again. So what you have is a training log that's good for, I think, about 10 dives, and then you can start using, better dive logs. If you haven't gotten your dive logs yet, you might get the new shipment. RMV is respiratory minute volume. So, like I said, these are often used for people who are tech divers. So, SAC rate is how we express the amount of air we consumed while breathing for 1 minute at the surface or at a pressure of 1 atmosphere. So, it's expressed as PSI or bar per minute. We use PSI here in the States. And we use imperial measurements. But when you go abroad, you may use bar and not use imperial. So here is our formula. So it's PSI used at depth. So those of you who were diving today, you started with what PSI in your cylinder?
3,000.
3,000, right? It's pretty much always 3,000. A bonus question. If it looks like more and you're in the heat, what law might that be?
Gay-Lussac.
Very good. Gay-Lussac or Amundsen. Excellent. That's a trivia question. Not a lot of people know that at all. Okay. So 3,000 would be your PSI used at depth. Oh, used at depth, right? So what did you end with on your first dive? Do you remember?
2,200.
Okay. So this is where you're going to subtract those. We'll go into some examples, but you're going to subtract. So if you ended with 2,200, you only used 800, right? So 800 divided by time. And so what was the time of our first dive? Today. We're just talking about diving today. Those of you who are like, wait, what? This is just an example. Do you remember how long we were on our first dive? It was short, right? 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
like
20
20
minutes.
minutes.
Okay. So we took the PSI used at depth, 800, divided by time, 20. And then we're going to take that times 33. Where's the 33 coming from, guys?
The regular atmosphere
Yes,
one.
it's atmosphere is absolute, but in our case, we were in freshwater today. Now, yesterday, we were in saltwater, so it'd be 33, but we're actually going to use 34 for Elijah's example or for anyone who dived today. So we're going to take 34 divided by depth plus 33. So depth would be your average depth, not your actual depth. So our max depth today was what, Elijah, on our first dive? 44, right?
40, yeah,
Yeah. But what did I say was your average depth?
20.
20. Okay, so we're going to take 20 plus 33 and get 53, right? Sorry, plus 34 because we're in freshwater. 20 plus 34 is 54, right? So we're taking 34 divided by 54 and taking that times the PSI used at depth, which was 80 divided by 20. Does that make sense?
Wait,
Okay.
80?
Not really, but
Oh, sorry,
sure.
800. My
800.
brain is very tired. Thank you for correcting me. 800. So PSI, it is complicated. I suggest you write this formula in your dive log so you have it, especially since you're going to be doing this a lot. Okay. So again, it's just PSI used at depth. Sorry, I said 80. It's 800 divided by the time of your dive. And in the case of Elijah's first dive today, the dive time was 20 minutes. So you're taking 800 divided by 20, and you get what?
40.
Okay. So 40, and then take it times 34 divided by depth plus 34. So the average depth was 20, and then we were taking it plus 34, so that gives us 54, right? So take 34 divided by 54.
You get 0.6296.
Okay, now take that times 800 divided by 20 was 40. Was it 40 the first number? Yeah, 40.
Yes.
So take that times 40.
Which is 25.19.
Okay, so write that down as your SAC rate on your first dive. And I know your second dive was better. Okay, so again, what you're going to do is first calculate how much PSI was used on your dive. So it's the starting PSI minus the remaining PSI. So we just said in Elijah's example, 3,000 minus 2,200 gave 800, but maybe you ended with 1,200 instead. Okay. So let's say it was 1,200 and you were in saltwater. This might have been our dives yesterday, actually. So now you're going to take 3,000 minus 1,200, and that gives you 1,800 PSI. Now you take 1,800 PSI divided by your time. Okay. So you plug in your time and then you are going to take that number and plug in your average depth, which is what we did with Elijah's example. And then you're going to solve. And then don't forget the order of operations, right? So the way you solve it. So how many of you love math?
Me.
Okay. So, all right. So I think this is where Chris is going to take over and walk you through some really good problems. Right, Chris?
Sorry, yes, absolutely.
Sorry, because was not expecting live on the fly to put Elijah on the spot, but I thought, hey, I'll help him out because he's got to complete his dive log. So, okay. And everyone else on the dive today, just, use what we talked about. So,
All right, everyone. So welcome back. Unfortunately, I got the math for you tonight. So bear with me. We're
there's
gonna
only
get
three
through.
problems though.
We'll go quick. All right. All right. So for our problem here, so we definitely want to calculate our sac rate. So we have our word problem here. So I'll take you back to middle school algebra as we're going through this. So you're a new diver trying to determine your own sac rate based on your last dive. Started your dive from a boat in Panama City, Florida with 3,100 psi. Ended your dive with 900 psi. You're using an aluminum 80 cylinder. You dived an average depth of 52 feet, and your dive lasted 38 minutes. Now we got to calculate our sac rate. So I know we just went through an example here, but just some key things to take out of here. We have our starting PSI of 3,100. We have our ending PSI of 900. We have an average depth of 52 feet, and our dive lasted 38 minutes. So those are all of the bits of information that we need, and we have our lovely calculation sitting down here at the bottom. So we have PSI used at depth over our time. That's the time of the dive. Now we are diving in saltwater, diving out of Panama City. So you see the 33. Then we have our average depth plus 33. We're going to build that all together for our sac rate. So now that you have all the pieces to the puzzle, let's see if we can put it together and see if we can all get about the same number here. Does anyone have any questions? Is there something that's just glaringly confusing at this point? If there is, we can absolutely walk through it a little bit, or at least answer it before we move on. All right. So how are we doing, everyone? We ready to
Audience
see?
interaction is appreciated,
Yeah.
especially when you're
Doing
teaching
great.
these really hot technical things.
We're done.
Okay. All right. So let's step into this. So, all right. So here we go. So because we started at 3,100 and we ended at 900, so that gives us total used PSI of 2,200 PSI. So we have our PSI used, 2,200, over our 38 minutes of dive time. We are using 33 because we're in salt water. We have 52 feet as our average depth, and again, a correction of 33 because we're diving in salt water. So when we put this together, we work on our parentheses first. So we got our PSI used over our time. So that's what gives us this 57.89. So there's our 33. Here's our 33. And then 85 is our average depth plus 33. Okay, so we knocked out our parentheses here. So we have 57.89 times 33 over 85. So if we do our multiplication, we remember our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, if that's what you worked with. We have our 57.89 times 33, which gives us our 1910 over our 85. And if we take 1910 divided by 85, that gives us a sac rate of 22.47 PSI per minute. Is that what we got, or is someone sitting way out there? It
That's
is
what I got.
okay not to have the answer that's here. That's how we work through it.
Chris, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I got 22.47, but why is the term surface air consumption?
Okay.
So the surface part.
Exceptional question. Okay, so we are using this as a planning tool to know how much air we are going to consume on a dive. So the easiest way to correct for this, now we know that during this dive, we consumed 2,200 PSI over 38 minutes, which gives us 57.89 PSI per minute throughout the dive on average. Okay. That doesn't really help us if we wanted to plan a dive going down to 75 feet. it'd make it really difficult. So what we're doing with this correction factor using 33 or 34 is we are correcting this to how much air are we consuming at the surface. So it makes it easy if we do have a surface air consumption rate that we've tracked for ourselves as we're going through, in order to determine what we breathe at, we'll say 33 feet. So what that means is that 33 feet, because we're at 2 atmospheres, that's a correction of 2. So we will breathe about 44, 45 PSI per minute at 33 feet. Or if we go down to 66 feet, we multiply that by 3, which would come out to about 66, 67, 68, somewhere in there. And then multiply it by 4 going down to 99. So what that is this gives us a baseline that we can correct for, that we can adjust and plan for what our gas consumption will be at our specific depths that we're planning for. So it gives us that next level planning ability to not only know what our no decompression limit is, but also so that we can get a rough idea how much gas we're going to consume.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go ahead. We got another one here. All right, so I'm going to release this out. I'll read this through here. Problem number 2. So now we're diving at Blue Grotto. So Blue Grotto is a spring. A spring. It is not a saltwater spring. It is a freshwater spring. So we are diving in Williston, Florida at Blue Grotto. We start our dive with 3,000 PSI and we end our dive with 1,100 PSI using an aluminum 80 cylinder. Your average depth was 42 feet.
Are you Are you sharing right now? I'm sorry. Are you sharing your screen?
Yes.
He's sharing a screen.
I don't know what's happening on my end. I'm so sorry. I can't see anything. This is bizarre. My Zoom is just having gremlins. My apologies. I will figure it out. I don't know why I'm not seeing anything. Thank you.
No problems. All right. So starting PSI. So we're in freshwater. Freshwater. We started with 3,000. We ended with 1,100. So that's our cylinder pressures. We had an average depth of 42 feet and the dive lasted 45 minutes. We have our handy dandy, nice little calculation down at the bottom that lays it out for us. The only little bit math you have to do is your cylinder, what your gas consumed from your cylinder was. So before we step it in, I'll give everybody a couple minutes to work through the math. People can give me a heads up or a, I'm confused or a, I'm ready to move on. You're talking too much. That would be great. And we can step in to the next side. Cool. Right, rolling in.
All right, we're getting
All right.
some dones in the chat box.
Yippers. So we'll go ahead, give everyone another second here because I see some calculators out. So that's good. All right. So again, we're in freshwater, so we're using 34. All right. So down at the bottom, so that everybody can focus here, we should be somewhere around 18 PSI per minute. Did anyone get something substantially different? All right. Looking like some affirmatives throughout there, so we're looking good. So again, 1,900 PSIUs, 47 minutes of dive time. We have our 34 feet for freshwater calculation, 42 feet is our average depth, and our 34-foot correction factor, which gives us 40.43 by 34 over 76. 76 is coming from our 42 plus 34. This gives us 1374 over 76, which comes out to be 18.09 PSI per minute. All right, not a bad sac rate there. For those of us normal people, Gabrielle had no comment. So, all right, so problem number 3. So last one, everybody. All right, so we started our dive at Big Blue Spring on the Wasissa River with 2,900 PSI and ended our dive with 800 PSI. We're still using an aluminum 80. You were diving an average depth of 38 feet and your dive lasted 39 minutes. we have, again, our calculation, just as it should be. Have some notes in your dive log to keep for all posterity's sake. And let's go ahead and calculate our sac rate. Give everybody 2 minutes, and then we will go ahead and look at the answer. Already coming through, smart. Already get some answers here. All right. Nice. Man, folks are just knocking out of the park tonight. All of you are holding it together. Appreciate it. All right. So looks like we have some good numbers coming through. So what did we get? Somebody who's got it. Send out a number.
5.43.
There we go. Well done. Awesome. So again, we were still diving in fresh water. So we're using 34. And that gives us our PSI per minute is at our 53.85. There's our 34. 72 is coming from 38 and 34. So that gives us 1830.9 over 72, which then gives us our PSI per minute sac rate is 25.43 per minute. Any questions? All right. Any before we move on, any other questions? Everybody good?
I'm surprised
right.
they didn't ask what's a good sac rate. Normally that's one of the questions.
A good sac rate is that you saw what you wanted to see during the dive. You came back with above or around 500 psi in your cylinder, and you had a lot of fun. That is a good sac rate right there. So, yeah, that's for folks out here. I don't have the best sac rate in the world, so it's getting better. Gabrielle is mentoring me sufficiently. It's gotten a lot better, but we'll just leave it at that. All right. So what impacts sac rate with that? Some of these things we can change, some we can't. All right. Some of it deals with our actual physiology, our anatomy, lung size, lung capacity, what our level of physical fitness is, our body type and build. If you have more muscle on you, then you are most likely going to have a higher sac rate. It just takes more oxygen to run your system to make all that move. Again, what's also there, your level of stress, how excited you are. Are there environmental issues? If the water temperature is making you uncomfortable, either too cold, too hot, all these things can impact that and how your body is physiologically reacting with your environment. Again, sac rate is not exact. We don't want to try and do this down to the very nitty gritty, especially as we're starting off, because again, this is just a planning factor up front. We always want to be safe and conservative when diving. So some other things we've talked about, and you've seen, for those of you who've been in the water already, how you are controlling your buoyancy is a huge factor. What I will tell you is that after your first couple dives, the less you are playing with your inflator deflator and using your power inflator, you see a massive improvement in your sac rate. So the less you're playing with that, and the more you're orally inflating, if you're doing that, better sac rate you're going to have. All right. Before we step into the diving environment, is there any other questions about sac rate? All right. There was one question that I failed to really answer properly earlier, and that was on the decompression tables. There was a question of what are the ascent rates on the on the decompression tables. I feel like I didn't give a good answer on that one. So Ashley, I appreciate you asking a hard question out there. You challenged me, so I did some homework. All right, so what we're looking at here and in these columns is saying that from this depth, so from 80 feet to ascend to 20 feet, it will take you 2 minutes conducting a safe ascent rate of 30 feet per minute. Okay. What the number here, again, this is the time we have to stay at 20 feet. The total ascent time is our ascent from our depth to their 20 feet plus our time that we're staying at 20 feet plus the time it's going to take to ascend from 20 feet to the surface. Okay. So if we look at it, it's going to take us about 40 seconds. It shows it right here, not about. It takes us 40 seconds to ascend 20 feet. You say, but Chris, this says 40. You're right, because 40 minus 20, because we're ascending to 20, is that, and also if we actually do the math like I did over here, is that you ascend basically half a foot per second of ascent rate if you break that all the way down and correct it. So it takes about 40 seconds to go 20 feet. So this all added up. So if we were at 40 feet, it's going to take us at 40 seconds to ascend to 20 feet. We're going to stay there for 27 minutes. And then that means that our total ascent is at 40 plus 27 plus the 40 seconds it'll take us to get up back up to the surface for that additional 20 feet. So hopefully that clears things up. And does anyone have any questions, seeing that I just completely derailed everything?
That was great. I liked your derailing.
Okay.
That was good. I mean, I really love it when students ask us tough questions, but I love it even more when great instructors know how to solve it. Not initially, because we're human, right? We don't have all the answers,
Nope,
right?
there's
So
always
thank you.
something.
That was excellent.
Thank
All
you.
right.
That makes sense. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And again, we don't ever want to plan for that in that manner. We don't use that as a planning factor. It is something to reference if something has not gone correctly. Don't try and get yourself extra botted time.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, and can I just quickly say, in my over 4,000 dives, I have never had an unplanned decompression stop. Just as, never. Because I'm careful. I pay attention to my gauge. If I did dive down to the whale shark deeper than planned, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut my dive shorter. I'm just like super conservative. So,
All right. For module 8, we're gonna clip through this because it's starting to get late. All right. So things that we're gonna cover here: aquatic biology, some of the issues, and some of the scary or could be conceived as scary things what people say is concerns for them that we may find while we were diving. How we can preserve the ocean and act as a conservationist in every dive. And then we'll cover our aquatic conditions and what to expect with boat diving. All right, so for aquatic biology, very quick overview here. So things that we'll see: drifters. They are the very bottom of the food chain. Those are our zooplankton, our phytoplankton, and our algae. Okay, so what these add to the turbidity in the water. Diving in the ocean, you'll see them out there, the zooplankton and phytoplankton, especially diving at night. You see all these little specks in the water. Those are all the critters that are starting that very baseline of the ocean. So it might seem annoying in your photos, but hey, it's important. And algae is a big one even in freshwater. So you notice that in between your when you're diving, you're going to see algae in the water. That's something, again, one of those things why we want to maintain such good buoyancy is to keep the algae where it's supposed to be and not kicked up into the water, what might be getting in front of us. So kelp forest. Kelp is actually a form of algae that's out there. So again, algae is a plant in the water. So mostly in the western, out in the Pacific, the northern Pacific Ocean, off the west coast of the United States, definitely in colder salt water. And it's really, this is a kelp forest is something I still on my bucket list to go dive. You have mammals up there, the sea otters, other things, but it's cover for critters, so you're always going to find a lot of things there. But something for kelp, it is also an entanglement hazard. it can catch on your equipment, and that is something, if you are going and diving in kelp for the first time, make sure you go with someone experienced diving there to keep yourself safe. Okay, so we've talked about our floaters that are out there, our plankton and our algae. So the swimmers. So we have the barracuda, it's the silver torpedo underwater. We do see them out here, the great barracuda here, both the Caribbean and in the Gulf. So they're really cool to see under there. They're really attracted to anything that's shiny, and a lot of times will gravitate to that area of the boat. So grouper has come up already. Can be very large in size down there. You might think, oh my goodness, sharks. Well, grouper can also become aggressive. Sometimes they're gentle giants, and sometimes if there's a food source. But again, that is just always providing the requisite level of care and treating the animals with respect as they are due. So again, they are huge. I know in Australia they call them potato cod, which is kind of funny, but it's awesome to see them. It's pretty impressive to see them for the first time. So reef fish, all the colors of the rainbow down there, all different shapes and sizes, all tucked in there. So there is always a little fish that you can see, get a photo of. This is why it's so important for our neutral buoyancy, so we can maintain that stable area so that you get a chance to spot all these little guys as you see them out there. Another reason to maintain proper trim and buoyancy is we do have things that if you make contact with them, it's not just an annoyance. These are things that can hurt you. So the scorpion and stonefish, as you can see, they have exceptional camouflage. This is how they protect themselves. And then their last level of protection is that they do have venomous barbs that can envenomate you. So again, not only do we not want to bother them and not want to kick up the bottom, but that can have some ramifications for us. So as you can see here, he's hanging out right there. Again, proper trim and buoyancy. We get to take awesome photos like this and share them with our family and friends and say, hey, can you see the fish? Versus saying, yeah, I had to cut my dive short. All right. Invasive species are lionfish. So they have come from the Pacific into the Caribbean. They are taking over the food chain, and they breed extremely rapidly. Anna Marie has an amazing course that she has, her and Gabrielle have gotten into the SEI curriculum for lionfish hunting and conservation. So amazing course. When it comes up, please jump on that. It is awesome, but these are not good. So we got crabs, again, some of our food source as it goes through, things that come out during the night, crabs, spiny lobsters, all these great things. Some of my favorite, octopus. One of the big things about between night diving and diving during the day, you get to see a very wide range and different attitudes of critters when it goes from day to night. Octopus, you're lucky to see them during the day, but at night they come out and they hunt. And when you're using your light, you can really see some massive color shifts as they move from one substrate to the other. So really cool, really exciting to see. Hydroids. So who can tell me what this is?
Man-o-wars.
Bingo. Portuguese man-o-war. Actually, we call it a colony because it's actually a couple different types of animals that are all working together to survive. We have the creature that's causing it, giving it the ability to float, and then you have the components that have the stinging cells working together to feed. So again, it entraps the fish or other things in those tentacles, and then it will sting and venomate, and then eventually consume that. Again, jellyfish are things that you want to keep an eye out for, just like any place else. You understand the hazards and recognize those as you're going. So again, being aware of your environment. So fire coral, again, another stinging item that we can come in contact with. Again, the simple answer to this is we maintain positive, our neutral buoyancy. We are aware of ourselves in the water column. We never want to be running into or touching coral in any way, shape, or form. So you can treat any coral like fire coral. We don't want to physically come in contact with it. One finger touch from us on coral can take back hundreds of years of growth. So we don't want to touch it because it can sting us. We don't want to touch it so that everyone else can enjoy it. So, and again, as we're working with you on your buoyancy, you can see things. We have a brittle star that's all wound up into this fire coral here. A chance to really see that really microstructure, that microenvironment out there, not just the sharks and all the sea turtles and the macro. Again, we don't want to touch. There's a couple things here. We have very fragile coral. We got urchin in here. We got some sponges. Again, things that we can destroy just with a touch. So stay back. So it's not just coral, but sponges can also sting us. So again, we don't want to touch. We want to give it that proper respect. Again, we already talked a little about the hydroids, but sea wasps and jellyfish, again, things that can sting us. Again, this is really important. Comes down to wearing proper exposure protection. A rash guard can stop this from happening. So even if you do come in contact with these things, a simple rash guard can do that. Now, the one thing to take away from this is if you do see a jellyfish on yourself, you come up, you're wearing a rash guard or a wetsuit while you're in the water, you do see something like that, don't reach down with a bare hand and try and grab it. We want to either have our buddy use a gloved hand or something to help get those tentacles off of us before trying to grab it. Sea urchins in Hawaii, you step on a sea urchin, you get a Hawaiian tattoo, as that is calcium spines that are built up on that urchin that are very sensitive and will break off very easily. They most will usually break down under the skin over time, but again, you still have the risk of infection there. So, but you can see them moving and hunting across the reef, especially at night. Again, really cool to see, but again, keep away from running into things. But with that, I'll pass it back off to Gabrielle here, and unless anyone has any questions. All right. Gabrielle, I think you're still on mute.
All right. So my apologies. What's happened is right before I came online, it didn't Zoom did an update and it's just doing all kinds of crazy things on me tonight. Thanks to the update. So I probably shouldn't have updated it. I was saying thank you so much to Chris and Josh for teaching and hopefully you'll get to do some diving with Chris. He's an awesome diver, a lot of fun to dive with. And same goes for Josh. So hopefully you'll get to dive with us. So, all right, let me continue. We only have like 6 minutes left. And by the way, a lot of the things that Chris talked about, we may not have here, such as sea wasps. I've never seen sea wasps other than on the West Coast. Okay. Feeding fish. Obviously, if you feed fish, you just may become part of the food chain. Sharks. Some people are afraid of them. I love sharks. I love sharks. I call them the pit bulls of the ocean. They're misunderstood. Go to my YouTube channel and search for sharks or epic, because a lot of the dives I've done with sharks have been epic. And you'll see all kinds of, you'll be like, wait, how come they're so calm? They're like puppy dogs. They're curious, but they don't have any intention of eating you. Okay. Now, shark feeding, whoops, I just accidentally zipped through that. Shark feeding, uh, you know, shark feeding is going to make you part of the food chain, so don't feed a shark yourself. However, there are some reputable companies, especially out of the Jupiter area, who take people on shark feeding trips. If you do that, just follow all of their instructions and they'll keep you safe, okay? But become an advanced diver before you think that. You have to be an advanced nitrox diver to do that. Just don't touch anything, period. Don't touch anything, okay? Even things that you think might not be harmful, don't touch it. But bad anchor, oops, bad anchor. And see, everything is happening weird with us tonight. Here you can see bad anchor damage as well as blue-green algae attack. I mentioned dying coral. This is an example of brain coral dying. Your you need to have good buoyancy, form, and trim. Okay? So remain neutrally buoyant, get all those gauges and everything clipped. Don't damage anything. So when conditions are right, coral can regrow, but it takes a long, long time. Take care of our fragile reefs and do watch anchor placement. Not only is the anchor poorly placed, look at these divers. They're terrible. They're in a foot down position. Bad, bad, bad. Okay. So, damaged coral. There are many invaders today. We saw hydrilla, which is a non-native plant species that's overtaking a lot of rivers in Florida and now in the southeast. Here's an example of zebra mussels, and they're invaders also to freshwater. Your goal is to have no impact diving. Be neutrally buoyant, okay? That means flat in the water, not foot down. Please don't use your arms. Don't touch things. Avoid kicking sand on coral by doing frog kicks. No flutter kick. Streamline your gear. Become informed, especially about any new diving environment you may be going to. I know some of you are going on trips. Do some research before you go. Even post in Scuba Friends like, hey, I have a trip coming up to Key Largo. Who do you recommend I dive with? Or what do you recommend I see? Let me just tell you something about the Keys. If you end up going to Christ of the Abyss statue, which, by the way, I have a big print of in my office, if you go there, there's fire coral on it. Do not touch Jesus. You will be stung by Jesus, okay? So, and also encourage others to learn. You're going to see a lot of examples of bad divers out there. Don't do what they're doing. Don't do what they're doing, okay? So anytime you dive in a new area, you want to do your research. Make sure you match the conditions to your ability. So if you want to go to the Galapagos Islands, you've got a lot of work to do. It's heavy current. You need to be advanced nitrox certified and have a lot of dives under your belt. I really recommend diving with a local or a dive master. Dive masters know where all the good stuff is. You know, octopuses, seahorses, things that like to be in a certain territory, they know where they are. So I love it. I don't care how experienced I am. I'm always going to go with a dive master if I can. Check competing shops and again, post on Scuba Friends or look for previous postings as well. Freshwater diving, lakes, quarries, rivers up north, they only have to dive in quarries and you know, they're really low visibility and really cold. Thermoclines may be the case too. Thermoclines are changes in temperature, and there could be seasonal visibility shift as well in freshwater. So when it comes to the ocean, we need to pay attention to things like winds and currents, waves and surf, swells, how we time getting in the water when there are swells, tides. If you want to dive the jetties in Panama City, which I love, you need to go at high slack tide, so it's about an hour before high tide. And then there are many other things to keep in mind. Overhead environments. Oh my gosh, it's 9:30. Overhead environments. We have a lot of overhead here, and so just be aware. Boat diving, if you're captaining your own boat or chartering a boat, you need to keep in mind that as well as choosing a resort charter. Okay? And people ask me all the time, when you go diving and you go on these trips, what do you bring with you? I personally like to bring everything except for the cylinder and the weights, okay? So diving at a resort, do all these things beforehand. Set up your gear on the dock when you go on a boat before it goes underway, and you're less likely to get seasick. And also, if there are any problems like an O-ring, you solve it there. So the dives, listen to the briefing. With the current, you're always going to swim against the current first and then come back with the current. And then you're going to learn about these lines when you're diving. So yesterday when we were in Panama City, we jumped off and we grabbed the no swim line to dive to the front of the boat, and then we went on a down line. Then on the way back, we went on a current on the trail line. So with divings, always listen to briefing, always have a buddy, always figure out your plan, plan your dive your plan, gear up, and then enter. And then make sure that when you come up, don't ever become complacent. Keep a regulator in your mouth. If the seas are flat, you can have a snorkel in your mouth. Have something in your mouth. Always have your mask on your face. when you come up, okay? And you're going to have a fin on each arm. If you captain your own boat, the most important things are how are you going to get back on the boat, and then make sure that you have somebody on the boat. You can't have two people diving and leave your boat unattended, okay? So that's module 8 in a summary. Let's go diving. There was more I was going to share with you, but I'm going to end there, and unless anyone has any questions. All right, we covered a lot tonight. The next thing I'm going to do in the next week is I'm going to send you an exam, and you're going to take it closed book. And then the following week, we're going to come back and we will review it together. So you just need to have it prepared. I'll send you the instructions. If anyone wants to change their dive dates, look at the dive calendar. Let me know if you want to change dates, or if you can't make something, or if you want to join something, and we'll make sure that you get taken care of. And again, anyone in the July 6th pool session who wants to hop to the 12th and is able to, please let me know. All right, any final questions or thoughts? Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting the nonprofit. Thank you so much, especially to Josh and Chris for teaching tonight. Okay, let's go diving. Woohoo!
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.